Hey everybody, Mike Toy with Bonsai Boise. This is my pomegranate tree. Started as a cutting about 5 years ago or so, give or take. And in this video, I'm going to go back and look at about a year's worth of history. It's had some ups and downs over the last year. Going to give it a trim a couple times actually. I'm going to address a problem that's been bothering me on this tree for quite a while. But first, we'll just take a moment to look at the flowers. It's a pretty tree. So going back to January of 24, it really kind of went downhill there for a minute. Lost a whole bunch of leaves, which sometimes it does. It is technically a deciduous tree, even though I bring it in when it gets cold. But still, it happened kind of rapidly. Kind of freaked me out. So I tried my plastic bag trick. Here it is after doing that for a couple of weeks. Plastic bag trick is just putting a plastic bag over it, really, and spraying some water in there to keep it humid. And it kind of acts like a greenhouse when you do that. And as you can see, after a couple of weeks of that, some new little grow tips popping out of the branches there. This method has been mostly successful on most trees. So I was relieved to see this. I wasn't freaking out too bad, but I was getting ready to. Then here it is a little while after that. You can see it's really started to leaf out, so I'm fully relieved at this point now. This is in February. I put it up just for contrast against my black door there. You can see bright green leaves coming out of everywhere. And then here it is in the end of March, and you can see at this point it's gone full rogue. It's just growing everywhere in all directions. So the plastic bag trick, I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen without it, but I'll say that definitely kickstarted it into regrowing. I mean, this is, 2 months or so from the first clip where it was losing all the leaves. Big difference. It's pretty full and thick and happy and healthy. But I didn't want to trim it yet because, it's still growing after all. But after another month, here it is the end of April, at this point it's it's just out of control. So I did trim it here. I just wanted to set it up well for the growing season. I'm just looking through it, kind of figuring out how I want to go. I can't believe how much growth it put on. Just in 3 months. The 3 slowest growing months, too. So I just take kind of my standard approach and I just go at it. I usually start toward the bottom. And I kind of nip at it a little bit first just to get an idea of which way everything's going. Then I get into a little bit of a flow. So a little history on this tree. This was a cutting of another pomegranate that I don't have anymore. It died, unfortunately. But I got that first pomegranate for $8 at a little shop in Boise. They weren't sure what it was, and I wasn't either at the time. So $8 for the mother tree. Here it is after trimming it up. But yeah, that started as just a little cutting about 5 years ago. So I'm mostly happy with it, but I've never been thrilled with the overall structure. If you look at the trunk line on it, you'll see how it curves at the bottom there, and then it gets really straight in the middle. Here it is, by the way, in June, after moving it outside. We'll take another look at that straight trunk here in a second. but I always move it outside in late spring, mid to late spring. Here it is in July. And if you look closely, you'll see the beginnings of little flower buds. So these flower buds, I've learned, will actually grow into fruit, into pomegranate fruit, if they are pollinated. Last year, I was lucky enough to see a hummingbird come and actually pollinate one, and I got it on video. It's on my pomegranate video last year. I'll put a link to it here. Here it is in the end of July, and look at that. All those flowers have bloomed, and such a cool looking tree. That's why I love pomegranates. The contrast between that, vibrant green and the vibrant red just looks cool. But yeah, last year I was doing an update video of some type, and a hummingbird came right in front of me and started to pollinate these flowers, and I got it on video. I couldn't believe it. It's probably a bigger deal to me than it was anybody else watching, but at the moment it seemed pretty cool. So I do something kind of weird here. As you can see, I cut off all the flowers. My reasoning, even though it doesn't look as cool now, is that flowers take a lot of energy. It's not like just producing a leaf. It takes way more energy for the tree to produce flowers. And I've noticed in the past that the tree kind of suffers a little bit when you let it just go like that. And this time, considering the winter I just had with it, I didn't want it to. I wanted to keep it healthy, so I proactively cut the flowers off in order to conserve energy. I probably should have done it when the flowers were still in buds and not all the way bloomed. Would have made more sense, but better late than never. So, off with the flowers. Looks less cool. Overall, I'm hoping that the health will be better. Here it is a month later in August, and the tree said, hey, I want to make flowers, so fine. I let it go with flowers. But you can see kind of a difference in the leaves there. New growth compared to old growth. The lighter green is the new growth. So it did put on a new flush of growth after I cut the flowers. At least until new flowers showed up. And here's some cuttings that I got from that trim that I did back in April. It really roots easily from cuttings. And they make cool little gifts and stuff. They are pretty trees, so I get a lot of comments on these. Here's one that's already got flowers in year 1 of being a cutting. Didn't even think that was possible, but I guess it is. I always say I'm going to keep a few around, but I just end up giving them away usually. And then here it is about 2 weeks ago. I brought it inside. It's in my office now. Got a little stand for it, thanks to my new friend Susan in Boise. She was downsizing some of her bonsai stuff, and she gave me a good deal on some good bonsai stuff. So thank you, Susan. There's one of the pomegranate fruits, so it got pollinated at some point. That one looks like it might turn into some fruit. I'm not sure. But I think it looks pretty cool. The downside is that straight trunk right in the middle. Fast forward to today. Today on my lunch break, as a matter of fact. I just took a break and decided to address some issues on this tree. I'm not sure how well you can see the straight trunk right there. I'll try and highlight it here. You can see the trunk has good movement in the bottom. And then it hits the spot right after that first branch on the left. So right about there. Just long and straight. There is a branch coming off of the backside, about halfway up or so, give or take. And I've been thinking for a while on what to do about this. And I think there's only one thing that I can do. Oh, got distracted by a pretty flower. Sometimes you gotta stop and smell the flowers. Back to the trunk. There's really only one thing you can do. You can hope for more branches. You can try and wire it. It's a little bit risky. This is not always taken well to wiring. Sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. I'm not really sure why, but I think overall I've got to make a cut. And I thought about it for a while, kind of tried to find any other solution, but there isn't one. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. Wow, that's drastic. I'm doing this for the long haul. It looks awkward. It's in kind of an awkward state and probably will be for a little while. But in the long run, I think it's, in fact, I know it's going to be better. So I shortened that long straight trunk by about half. And overall, it's going to have better taper now as well. Before, the trunk was kind of the same thickness all the way up, which isn't all that interesting. And that's not how a typical tree looks. It's got taper. It gets skinnier as it goes up. And now it will. I put some wire on the back branch, or I'm about to here. I'm going to clean this up. That back branch, I just wanted it to go down a little more and to the right. And we're going to try and make some cool cuttings out of the top there. I left the one pomegranate on there. So I put the wire on kind of loosely. You can do it real tight, you can do it real loose, or anything in between. I did it somewhat loose. I just want to guide it in that direction. It doesn't need to be exactly the way I put it there. There you go, kind of like that. I love how it looks with all those flower petals all over it too. Now for that branch, at first I put wire on that to hold it down, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized I've got to get drastic with that too. So I pulled the back part down and then off it went. And this actually improved it. The first one didn't improve the look of it today. It was more of a long run thing, but this one improved the look of it today, I think. It looks more in proportion now and less awkward. It's sparse looking for sure, but that part will take care of itself with time. It'll just grow and fill back in. And for that branch, I just used some kind of a guy wire. The new leader there is going in the right direction. There's the pomegranate fruit. So yeah, it was for me, that was a big decision. It was kind of hard to make, but you got to do that sometimes with bonsai trees, or else they'll just turn into actual trees. And that's not the point. So this was the time I got drastic. There's the new leader. And we'll take a look in the long run and see how it goes. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.